Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. What's going on? What's good? What's good? Episode 252 of The Pass is here. I'm your host, BT. I've decided I was delayed on doing this show. Wasn't sure how I was going to get done. If you noticed or remembered on episode 251, it was a bit of a brief show. And that was just due to constraints and just kind of the options that were available. Because I wanted to wait to talk about a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And I'm saying we because I actually have someone on the show. He was a guest on, I forgot what episode it was. I know it was in the hundreds, but you want to introduce yourself?
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for having me back, BT. My name is Breeze, and I am from New Jersey.
He's being professional now, but when we get into the shits, that's all going to change. And he knows I'm drinking. Y'all know I drink. Anyway, today's episode is sponsored by Fireball. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not claiming any copyright or responsibility for anything. So that way, if we get any music or throw any shit in there, then I don't get kicked off for that. I forgot because I'm supposed to set up sound. So ignore the background noise. But y'all know I'm going to adjust it because I don't care. But yeah, so he's on the show for two reasons. One, he invited me for a participatory point, which we'll get into that very soon. And the second part is, since he's a sports head and I'm a sports head, we're going to talk about sports and the heavy hit of this summer, which was the Summer League. We're going to chop it up and have a field day with everything that has occurred. So he has his list already. I'm going to be cross-referencing the list, and we'll get into that list in a moment. I'm going to try to find a way to remember to add that into the show itself. Haven't figured out how. We'll get there when we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, we just gonna go ahead and it's gonna be a free for all show. I'm gonna get him to learn because hopefully he'll know with me. I have no problems with stories and discussions and talks, but we don't want to turn it into like the long-winded extended remix of whoever and whatever. So first things first. I don't know why I'm hearing something weird. Okay, never mind. Anyway, first things first, we did come here because this is like our little gaming session, but we usually come and we participate in a sporting event or attend an event. So the last time we were here, we did arena football, which was cool. My first time going to a professional game. This time, however, we decided, and this was this is your first time at the stadium, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This was my first time at seeing Baltimore in Baltimore.
Okay. So they were at Camden Yards. It's Camden Yards, not Camden Park, because I always get them confused. Yeah, Camden Yards, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, they played at Camden Yards. They played against the Tampa Bay Rays. My elderly almost ruined it in realizing that they're no longer the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. So luckily I was able to remember that. But we did go see the game. And I guess I'm supposed to give my perspective on how I felt about the game because he asked me this yesterday and I didn't give an answer at the moment because premium content on the podcast. So without further ado, I'm gonna give my opinion about the game, and if you want to talk about it, you can. Like, as far as the baseball experience, it was cool.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
I actually enjoyed the game. For my first pro game, I actually enjoyed it. Now, I'll be honest. I have a baseball story, and none of my listeners, I don't believe, know this story. There's a reason I'm not a big baseball guy, and it's not that I don't like the sport. It's my personal experience I had with baseball. Growing up, playing, and I don't know if it was baseball or just any sport that involves strikes. I used to be known as the 1-2-3 kid, which meant literally if I got up to bat, got up to plate, it was a guaranteed strikeout. So I wasn't the most... I was athletic in other senses, but for whatever reason, when it came to baseball, we just didn't work out. But watching the game, you are forced to be alert because there were a couple foul balls that were hitting our area. We actually were sitting on the side of where first base is, which wasn't that bad because, I mean, you had a couple lefties who did come up to bat, which caused a couple balls to come that direction, but not where we were sitting specifically, which was cool. I won't press for coming. I didn't come with the 5-year-old with the glove and ready to catch a foul ball.
So just in case if there's any baseball people who don't watch baseball, where we sat was if you look at the first baseline, right at first base, that's where we were sitting, but we were also 17 rows off of the first baseline.
Okay. So yeah, it was dope. It was chill. It was like a really enjoyable moment. I think the moment for me that stood out the most that I wasn't prepared for was the seventh inning stretch. I was confused, not because of the singing of the "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I was prepared for that. I know that's like the norm. It was a song afterward where I was kind of confused, and I kind of looked at you like they're singing this song. I don't know what this is or what's going on. And it was also a shirt night. They gave out these loud Orioles shirts that I think Breeze was expecting if we had went to the Harbor, we was going to see him today. Luckily, we didn't. I'm glad I didn't go. So it worked out in the end. I don't want to take up. Wait, no, I got my question because I need to ask a question. So there was a question that I brought up to him before we went to the game. I think it was like before we even got prepared to go. I think it was like that Friday when we got here. And I asked him, I was like, so as many of you know, if you aren't into baseball, a lot of times baseball teams will play a doubleheader. They'll play 2 games in one night. This particular day, they played 2 games. They were playing their first game, I believe, at 1. And the second game was at 7, which was the one we went to. We went to the 7:05 game.
And just in case if, the reason why they do the doubleheaders is, let's just say if a game from previous is rained out, they'll actually schedule the next time that they're playing each other a double header so that they can make that game up. So that's why there was a double header yesterday.
Okay, so it was an intended doubleheader from a rained out game earlier.
Yes,
got it. Okay,
and baseball is one of the only sports that play outside that does not play in the rain. Like football, you could play in any weather. Soccer, you play in any weather. But baseball, once it starts raining, they call it. It's either a delayed game or they just call the game and make the game up at a later date.
Right. Okay. So the question I asked him related to this was, if they play the 1:00 game, say the game ends at about 4:30 for shits and giggles. Between that 4:30 and 7:00 period, what do they do?
See, I believe, and the question went on to, do they stay in the clubhouse and eat something, or do they go out and get something to eat? Me, myself, I do believe that they wound up staying in the clubhouse and actually eating something at the clubhouse. Are there players that do go out and go get something to eat? Probably, most likely.
Right.
But I do believe that they actually just stay in the clubhouse so that they wouldn't, especially in a big city like Baltimore. Like, think about if they're playing in New York against the Yankees or the Mets. Mm-hmm. It's going to be stupid hard for them to leave and then come back due to traffic. And especially since New York is a high-profile city. Yeah. So I just do believe that they actually stay inside and then get something to eat in the stadium.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that was mainly like the big question I had, but otherwise the game itself was a good game. It was a good game as far as viewing the game. Now the score, trash. Because the team, obviously we were going to see the Orioles and they really didn't have one of their best performances. And it was ironic because I think after we left, they scored again. I think the score was like 12-3.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it was it was shocking because it was actually a higher score. Like, if I was to do an over-under, that would have been way over my amount. I was expecting like less than 5 runs total.
And here's a funny thing. We were we were actually watching the game Friday, and Tampa Bay was blowing Baltimore out, and you leaned to me and said, "I hope the game is not like this." You know, when we
Oh,
go
so
to
you
the
say I
game.
spoke it in existence?
Well,
That's what that sounds like.
Well,
You
well,
just
I said, let's hope that the game is close. Well, then the first game of the doubleheader,
was close.
what was close. I think Baltimore wound up winning that one. But,
2-1, yeah.
But then, like, this game just got out of hand, and you know, just being at that stadium, that was actually a good. I actually like that stadium. Like, I'm either usually at watching the Phillies in Philadelphia, I'm at Yankee Stadium, or I'm
You
at,
mind telling them what stadium for those who aren't baseball fans? Thanks.
or I'm either in Philly or I'm in New York watching one of the three teams in that area.
Yankee Stadium, and I don't know Philly Stadium. But we're going to continue, and we'll find it on your local headlines. I'll add it in the show notes. But yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But I'm just saying, like, this is actually a pretty nice field.
That's a dope. It was a unique setup. Like, even I think what got me the most was it was an area where I saw people just standing, and there wasn't a lot of activity in that area per se, but it was a very active little section where it would look like if you wanted to possibly catch a home run, you could have been in that area. Even though I don't think any home runs were hit that way, but just because it was there, it was interesting. Trying to think what other exciting things. That's really all I got. The setup of since I am drinking, the unique part for me, which was shared, which I kind of knew or kind of figured but didn't expect, was after the seventh inning, you can't buy alcohol, or you can't buy beer, alcohol, whatever.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of going to a basketball game or a football game, and it's like they start cutting you off after the third quarter.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't know that. Like, I guess because I don't really think like that. Like, I would try to get my drink early and often, but I get it. You don't want to have folks like be drunk near the end of the game or be offered a drink that could possibly lead to them going out, leaving the event, and getting into a car accident, things of that sort. Yeah, so I get that.
So after they start, right around midway point of the inning, that's when they start calling last calls. If you actually gone to like a basketball game or a football game, they start calling it saying no more beer after the third quarter. Right. So it's like you said, for people who are driving home.
Yeah, for safety purposes. I got you. Okay. So yeah, that's all I got for the baseball game.
Well, did you have a good time? Had your first baseball game?
Yeah, I mean, in the game itself, I did enjoy it. I'm not gonna deny. The score was trash. That's all I got. I mean, it was an interesting observation. That much I will say, because when you watch it on like certain, I'll say this: there's certain sports that I just know for a fact I can't watch on TV. Like, we're watching it; it's on the background now. Watching baseball on TV is hard for me, because it's not that amusing, but going to a game, I have a different look towards it. Like, there's certain games that just work better to watch in public or watch in person.
Yeah, that's one of them. That's one of them, because you're not only like you're there, but you're also on lookout, depending on where you're sitting. Where we were sitting, we had to watch out for foul balls. So right. we were highly into the game because of that as well. I don't know about you, but another game that is better to watch in person and on TV, I found, is going to hockey games. Like, that's better to watch there than watching on TV. You see the line changes, you see how the fight breaks out, and
yeah, you see the whole process. I think because the commercial timeouts, the regular timeouts, TV timeouts aren't given the same factor on TV compared to being at a venue. So for hockey, it's the same way. Like, I did get to see a hockey game, I think about 5 years ago.
I mean, like, the camera could be on like the action, like on where like the puck is, but then up the ice on the opposite side of the ice, a fight is breaking out. So how do you know how does a fight break out, and you see it happening?
Yeah.
Instead of watching the repeat.
Right. Yeah, so that, I mean, that was, like I said, it was decent. Like, as far as, like, if I had to grade on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good, 1 being horrible, I'd say it was about a 8. Like, I can't give it a flawless 10. I mean, it was my first time. I think it was because I was going looking for Baltimore to win. So that's why, and I can't put that in my, I mean, that's my personal factor, but it's not like a major, like, it wasn't a deal breaker. I'll say that.
Well, my whole plan was for you to actually experience, like the baseball experience.
Yeah.
Both of those teams are in my favorite team's division, so I didn't care who won or lost.
Right.
I just wanted to see a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all it's about. The part that wasn't, now one part, this is the last thing. I'm like, we're 15 minutes on this. The other part that was interesting that kind of caught my attention was when we went to the other side of the field and we saw like the pitchers warming up. Cause I didn't know that process, like that they literally, now this was that particular field, but like you had the home team's pitcher, he's on one part practicing, and then the away pitcher's like right there where it's like home pitcher, away pitcher, and hecklers and fans from the home team, like right there. That was a unique instance or a unique scenario.
Well, I'll explain that to you. Well, there's what you call a bullpen, which and the pitchers warm up in the bullpen before relieving the starting pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
They're in every field. They're in every stadium, depending on where they put them in different locations. Well, usually you can actually stand over the bullpen and actually see the pitchers warming up.
Right.
When I go to the Philly games, I stand. That's where I like to stand, watching the pitchers warm up. And usually the bullpen is somewhere in outfield. It could be in the left field. It could be a center. I know Phillies is in right field, so that's what he's talking about, the bullpen. And usually, as soon as they actually legitimately finish warming up, they will throw a ball out. Like we did see one of the catchers actually throw a ball up, and a fan caught it. So that's kind of why people were standing around.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it was dope. The time, and then we're still on this. The timer was new because I didn't even know about that until witnessing it. As far as like how much time between innings, time for a pitcher to pitch to the next player, like all those things. The timers was new to me, so that was my last bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the shot clock or the play clock in football and basketball to kind of bring the time of the game so that the game won't go as far as it should. It's trying to fasten the game up a little bit.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that was kind of what I gathered, what I got, what was kind of broken down on it. But yeah, that was mainly it for the game. The next part is, because I didn't do it on episode 251, like I kind of mentioned a few things and some trades happened, so we'll try to hit the big ones, and then we'll really like chop it up about everybody that went different places. Of course, if any of you weren't aware, or if you've been under a rock and you're a basketball fan, it was NBA free agency, where players decide where they're looking to go, who they are looking to possibly join up with, what chances there are of players potentially wanting to win a championship here and now. And the big trade that happened. So 2 big trades happened before free agency. One was Mike Conley going to Utah, which shocked me. And Anthony Davis finally went to LA. Now, I didn't say this. I might have mentioned it on my show. I'm not sure. But I feel like LA did this trade to stick it to Magic. That's my opinion. Straight up. They did this. Everything that they're doing now is post-Magic. That's just my hot take.
I believe so as well. Magic couldn't get it done by the trade deadline. They let Magic go. And now they're coming up with all these different scenarios that Magic could have done, but Magic didn't do. So
Magic was, I think he was given a trigger to do it, but they didn't want it to be him getting credit for it happening. So to agree with what you said, that's mostly how it went down. Because it was ironic. When he resigned, the following day, Luke Walton got fired, which I thought was weird.
That's like Mark Jackson building the whole Warriors team, and then now Steve Kerr's getting the whole credit for the whole team.
Right. So yeah, there was that one. The big hit, of course, Kyrie and Durant both going to Brooklyn. Durant changed his number to 7, which isn't a big deal. I was able to get Breeze to understand why LeBron couldn't change his number from 23 to 6 for production purposes. And that's basically, they had already pre-made and had jerseys already set for the upcoming season for LeBron. So there was no point, if you change his number, that's like a whole different transition, and it's like a whole set of jerseys you got to get rid of. So that was done. So Davis, I think, is wearing number 3 that they showed in the press release. How do you feel? All of that shit aside, fuck it. How do you feel about Kawhi and Paul George?
You know what? I knew that they wanted to play. I think it's gonna be a good fit.
Okay.
I know that Paul George wasn't his first pick, but I do think that if he wanted, I don't know if people know, but Kawhi was trying to get Paul George and Westbrook up to Toronto, and after that fell through, that's when he actually made the whole inquiry of going to LAC, and Paul George going over there. I actually do like the move for both of them.
Okay. And
believe it or not, I'm actually pulling for the Clippers over the Lakers for this season.
Do you feel like do you feel like with that move that puts him as a top 3 in the West?
The Clippers?
Yeah. Two-part question. With the moves that we've seen the Lakers make and the moves that the Clippers have done, does this put either of those teams or both of them in the top 3?
I see more on paper, why not? But
of course, yeah.
On paper, why not? But I see the Clippers actually being in the top 3 versus the Lakers.
Okay. And I was looking at a video right before we started because it was a weird deep dive of the trade that I still am not prepared for, but I also know why it happened. Money is I won't say money's the root of all evil, but money talks, bullshit walks. And long story less long, Westbrook was traded to Houston for Chris Paul, lottery picks. And they're looking at it kind of on the basis of, this is our way of saying I personally feel like the Thunder were trying to do what they could to get Westbrook out since Paul George has gone. And in Houston's case, Houston had Chris Paul's contract was ugly. That was one of the ugliest contracts I've ever seen. But, you're getting paid, get money, do you. I'm not knocking it. But it definitely is one to remember as far as, like, players getting paid. Like, he got paid. So, in hindsight, it's a heavy hit, but I don't know where to put them yet. Cause like even me as a Houston fan, like it's tough to like take off your fan hat and be like take off your personal fan hat and be a sports fan and say, okay, this team it skyrockets them. Cause they've like, of course, when they do the little title odds, people get all gassed up about that, but I don't really take those very heavily.
See, if you actually look at it, Oklahoma City's going to lose anyway because...
Not really.
Because...
I'm going to explain why, but go ahead.
And the only reason why I'm going to say that is because, hey, at least Houston got a good point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul wants out of OKC.
They get future picks, though.
So it's...
Future picks always is a formula.
I understand, but I'm going as per this coming up season.
Yeah, the immediate option is going to automatically look like Houston got the better end of the deal. And with the factor, and we also got to see like what picks came out of what they used the picks for as well. You talking about OKC?
Yes.
unless something weird happens this season, they're getting lottery picks for a while.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, like, I'm
Yes.
keeping it a buck. Like, and when you look at lottery picks, I'm not sitting here saying that the next couple draft picks you're gonna have excellent players coming out of the pros, but I mean, coming out of college, but you have some pretty good guys that are lined up to take on that role, to take that challenge on. So, it's a toss up, I guess. I don't know. I'm not gonna say OKC is gonna be horrible, but I know OKC is not making the playoffs next year. That's a given. And that's nothing to take away from any of the guys who are there. But I mean, you lost Jeremy Grant too. There are a lot of role players that they lost out on. Oh, and of course I forgot to talk about Kemba Walker going to Boston. That was a huge one that happened, because I think he was just getting tired of getting like dirt dogged by Jordan.
And talking about the East, I am happy that we actually got Al Horford from Boston into Philly.
We being he's a Sixers fan, because he's not going to tell y'all shit, so I got to tell him to remind y'all that he's a Sixers fan. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm happy that we got Al Horford from Boston Sixers. Kind of a little disappointed about Jimmy Butler, but I actually saw that happening.
Butler had to go.
Yes,
Butler was not going to stay. There was no reason. There was nothing that was keeping. There was not going to be a good presentation that Philly could give to present, hey, this is why you should stay. You could have put money on the table, but some of those big names that were moving had to come to Philly for him to stay. And even then, it was a tough battle, because you're already looking at it as Ben Simmons just got his payout.
Yes.
And B got his payout last year. So, yeah, it was kind of given. On the opposite end, from the non-trading perspective, Clay got the bag, Damian Lillard got the bag, and those are the only two that stick out. Oh, and of course, Cousins joining Anthony Davis in LA is going to be interesting too. Can't forget that one.
Yes, and as much as I like Cousins, he has to stay healthy too.
I mean, Davis has to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I think I said it. I might have said it when we were off air. I don't know if Cousins is. I'm not Cousins. I don't know if Davis is going to be available to play over 70 games this year.
What's your over under?
I feel like he's going to play probably 50 games, health wise, because his body is not at his age. His body is not like. He's still technically is developing as a basketball player. He hasn't. I think he might be going in his 7th or 8th season. So he's still in NBA years. He's kind of young. Like he hasn't hit his prime. Like your prime battle guys are your Durant's, your Westbrook, your Hardens. Those guys are like tiptoeing, if not in the 10 club. They're in the 10+ club. That's why Harden and Westbrook pulling this move off was huge. Because you almost think about it. Chris Paul was drafted, I think, a year or two before Harden. If I would have to like go back and look. I don't want to like fact check it, because it's not. I don't do fact checks in the podcast. But I mean, nonetheless, it's just one of those, because it's interesting, because if you look at it, no one would say right now that Chris Paul would still be in the NBA. I mean, let me not say that. That Chris Paul is still in the NBA and Deron Williams is not still in the NBA, even with them both being you're battling in two of your best point guards that came out at that time.
Well, you actually, I highly agree with you. There's some players that actually last longer than others. Look at the whole Carmelo Anthony. Got drafted in the same draft class as LeBron.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some other players like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh have walked away from the game underneath their own power.
Right.
Maybe because of Chris Bosh's health reasons, and Wade because of age, but Carmelo being pretty much kicked out of the league, or not even getting a team. Okay.
So we're going to go on to the next topic, but before we do, I want to respond to that. Carmelo was not kicked out of the league. Carmelo did not want to supply what was demanded. The demand for the NBA is not his 30 points a game. If you look at, and I want to make sure I say this right, if you look at teams that are trying to win or build to make a championship, none of them need a 30-point player right now. Let's not go by this season. Let's go by last season. If you look at the guys and look at everybody who was building with teams that they had, no one needs a 30-point offensive threat only, because that's all Carmelo was giving you. He was not playing defense. He was not making his teammates better. He just was giving you 30 points. That's all he cared about. Statistically, that looks good for him, but winning-wise, it was why he got boasted. It was why him leaving Houston, the Houston and Chicago scenario, and him being practically like on nobody's team, you saw it coming. Because he didn't want to be a role player. Now, first and foremost, let me preface, him going to Houston already was a bad idea, because he already played for D'Antoni before. So you already had them bumping heads off rip. That's I'll put that in the universe because it's important.
When he went there, I thought it was a bad idea too.
Right. But all of that being said, even if he was able to come in, and this is what's not being looked at from my perspective. I feel as though if Carmelo was able to go to any team in the NBA and be a leader for a second team line, like a B team lineup, like your bench five, put him in, that's instant offense. But Carmelo didn't want that role. Carmelo wanted to be a starter. You're not, in his personal position, he's not bigger than the game. He's not that marketable challenge of, now New York, okay, yeah, I got you. After New York, no, I can't give it. Because if you go back, because I think we talked about this off the show too. First, it was an article it was a video. I think Chauncey Billups was on Sirius XM. That's where I'm getting part of this from. That's one source that was talked about in the sports group. But the other part of it is, you look at his career. You go back to his time in Denver. You go back to his predominantly majority of his career in New York. Between those two teams, he had at least 3, maybe 4 scoring titles. We'll say 4, just for shits. Even those years he didn't win, he was still averaging 25 to 30 points a game. So that's his mindset and perspective of any team he's going to. When he went to Houston, he should have known he was not going to be averaging 25, 30 a game. You should have known that. Because the way the court, and that's something, us watching basketball and even with playing it, you know it as the court ain't but 10 players on the court and it's only 94 feet. The way Carmelo plays, it would have congested the offense, and him looking at it as, I got to get mine. And it's like, Carmelo, you're not Melo cornrows in Denver, excuse me. That's why him and AI was a battle working together. So as though, like, I'm saying all that because I don't want to take away or ignore the fact, yes, he kind of is left on the outside with the league, but in hindsight,
he did it to himself.
Right. Because there are over 300 positions in the NBA, and there are multiple positions in the G League. He's never going to go to the G League. We know that. But if you have an opportunity to play for a team, and it's an opportunity for you to get a paycheck, if you get into a role and you actually can play that role, it could lead to you getting a better role. It's just like doing movies. You do a movie, okay, you played this extra that was a random in the back, but you were a good extra random in the back. Okay, cool. Your next role, we gonna get you that star position. And that's what I think Carmelo, he shot himself in the foot, or he cut his opportunity short by being demanding, like, if I go to a team, I'm not gonna be a bench player. Okay. Well, none of us want you as a starter. You wait on the outside when you're ready to join us, and until then, You find your international games or your random pickup games and be at that little basketball court in New York where y'all just all shooting around, just looking like you playing basketball. You just gotta wait it up. But that's how I feel about that.
You think he'll be signed in within like a team like really desperately needs a player and he'll be signed
By regular season, no. The reason why is not because he shot himself in the foot. It's because he's not looking at it being it's just like NFL. You're not bigger than the Shield. The NBA, you're not bigger than the league.
Or what about when if somebody gets hurt in the middle of the season, you think they'll call him or call somebody else?
They'll call up somebody from G League. I'm being honest. Because in most cases, all it's gonna take, Lakers lose a top-notch player. DeMarcus goes out for a long period of time. They're gonna take somebody from their G League affiliate, put them in place, and that spot that's open. I mean, now you just you got that spot filled until Cousins comes back.
Right.
And I'm just using Cousins and the Lakers as an example. I mean, if any other team, he just is. It's two facets to it. It's the role, and it's also because no one's gonna say it, but I can say it because I don't give a shit. Money. I feel like he's gonna want a lot of money when he's gonna have to realize he's at veterans minimum now. He's at veterans minimum in his career. He's not that guy that's gonna be on somebody's team that we haven't heard all NBA from him
in years.
Right. Like, if you're not earning an incentive to be paid that worthwhile worth, you're not going to get it. And in his case, he hasn't played. He hasn't played an All-Star game in like 4 or 5 years. I'm exaggerating probably, but he hasn't played an All-Star game in a while. He hasn't made an All-NBA team in a while. He hasn't done the scoring damage in a while because lately you got guys in the NBA scoring over 25. Like, you got 8 or 9 guys averaging over 25 a game minimum. Steph Clay, Durant, Lillard, Westbrook, Harden, Kemba. I would say Kemba was over 25, I think. Trying to think of somebody else that would surprise. Kawhi.
Yeah.
I'd say Kawhi.
I was going to say Kyrie, but...
Maybe Kyrie. I mean, yeah, Kyrie carrying on his back. Yeah. He's in that mix. So I'm at like 9 already. And again, I'm doing all this on non-stats because y'all know I don't do that. But that's where we are with the trades and free agency. Was there any other ones that you can remember that I might have missed?
None that I can actually really like legitimately think of.
Okay.
Off the top.
Right.
I think you hit all the keys.
Yeah, the big ones that was more of a huge hit. Like they were. I'll tell this story, but it's a weird segue. So Woj is they don't call it Woj bomb for nothing. Wojciechowski will get a story and it's out in no time. Evan Turner was, I guess, on his Instagram live or Insta live, where he was on some video and he was talking about, yo, you gotta stop sharing these announcements like unexpectedly, because most athletes never. It's so bad now to the point athletes don't find out themselves. Like, even Anthony Davis said it during his interview. He said when they did like the Lakers entrance, it was, my agent tried to call me. I ignored it. My agent called me again. I ignored it again. All of a sudden, he went on Instagram and found out he was being traded. So when he found out, he tried to call his agent. His agent couldn't get a hold of his agent until eventually they were able to contact each other and he got the announcement of what happened.
I remember, now this player is going to be irrelevant, but here's a good point of that. There was a player about 4 or 5 years ago out of Portland, Oregon, University of Oregon, Luke Ridner. And I remember one season right before the year he retired, he was finding out through Yahoo or ESPN that he got traded from one team to another team.
Mm-hmm.
Then within an hour, he got traded from that team to another team. He got pretty much the majority of the story is he got traded 5 times within a 4-hour span, and he actually found out all through social media.
Oh, he went through the same thing that Cal Korver did.
Yes.
Cal Korver had the same incident.
And then he just eventually just called up the team that the final team that he got traded to. It goes, I'm putting my retirement papers in.
But I mean, in hindsight, it was. I mean, once you done got that bad to a point of being trade bait, you kind of know what time it is. Podcast also sponsored by Snapple Lemon Tea. It's great for sobering up. So yeah, that's kind of the overall hit of most of the guys who got traded and switched up. So I'm pouring heavily because this next topic. Let's see how much time. Well, it says 40 minutes recording, but I'm not limited to an hour. So this part might go over the 20-minute. We might break the hour, but we're gonna break the hour just because it's an interesting topic. So this is why I have him on the show, and this is why we're gonna get into the shits, and this is why I had to make sure that I pour it up a little bit more to be as coherently understanding of his theory and these lists that he made. So I'm gonna give y'all a backstory. Hope the date's on here, because if it is, it makes it even better. Please give me a date. I want her date. All right. Okay. No, I said 9 hours. I don't remember what day it was. So it was a couple weeks ago. Breeze comes in our sports group chat. Now, mind you, one of my biggest reasons that I've kind of held on to Facebook is because of the sports group, because we always have like good conversations. It's good. It's kind of a one-stop shop to get updates on stuff as it happens in most of the sports world. Hell, we've been through like tennis in there the last couple of days. But a few weeks ago, Breeze gets in and he's getting into his list bag. I'm going to call it the list bag. Now, the first list you put was when it all just was an entertaining scenario, because I didn't even have a chance to get the comments at the time. I was just too busy hung up on lists. First list, and I'm going to read it just as he wrote it. I'm not going to read any of these lists yet, but the first one was when I was like, okay, here we go. Debate me. The 12 greatest point guards of all time. This one was extremely hard. He put it after the fact, my opinion. All of these lists, let me preface, because I don't want to sound like an asshole, even though I'm going to be. All of these lists were his opinion. So he did a top 12 list of all 5 main positions in the NBA, which is point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. Now, first things first. The only list that he put the debate me part on was the point guard and the power forward. The rest of them, he puts list center of all time, 12 greatest shooting guards of all time, in my opinion, 12 greatest small forwards of all time, in my opinion. His number one list on small forward, I'm going to get to that in a minute too. I ain't forgot. I got all this shit because we going to have a free fall with this.
And I got
First of all,
I got it right here too.
So before we get into the lists themselves, clarify your breakdown of what your merits are based on guys being listed in their order.
Well, first of all, the top 3 are my favorite 3. So I'm not gonna change the 3. My top 3. Those are my favorite 3.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, it doesn't matter what order.
Okay.
It's just the top 3 of my favorite 3.
So, for future reference, we should put in no particular order.
Okay.
That would have helped you and saved you a little bit on this list. I'm giving you that pass, but I'm helping you because now we can have this conversation. Because we had a conversation in the group. Because when everybody saw the list, I think everybody was waiting for me to like awaken and like turn into Yosemite Sam. And I was like, hold on, let me read the list. Let me process it. I even wrote all of them down and I'm sitting here looking at it like, I had to show it to one of my coworkers. I was like, look at these lists, get back to me and give me your thoughts. So now that you've given that prefix or that preface to it, it makes a lot more sense. Because your top 3, We're going to start with the one that just shot me in the throat. Point guards, I was confused. Magic, I got you. I got you on Magic. I got no problem with Magic.
Now, see, before you continue, I know after he reads some of these lists, especially this one, I know that there's going to be players that I put on, and there are going to be players that I left off.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it purposely. I didn't do it maliciously. But like I said, like what BT said, it's also in my opinion. So I know I'm going to get a lot of heat, and I have gotten a lot of heat for this.
Oh yeah, you caught smoke. You caught Matt. You caught 36 in the chamber smoke from this one. Because I was like, wait, let me wake up. Like, let me make sure I'm not like on the wrong wave or missing the wrong boat or something. So I'm gonna read the 12 for the point guards, and then we're gonna just chew it on down. Magic, Steph Curry, Westbrook, Isaiah Thomas, old school Isaiah, obviously, because if you had put point guard now Isaiah, I would have just not I wouldn't have took the trip. Kidd, Stockton, Tim Hardaway, Peyton, Kenny Smith, Penny, Lillard, and Harden. Okay. Why Kenny Smith?
I felt as though Kenny came up in the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny was like a clutch point guard.
Okay.
He also has a couple. I know it's not much, but he also has 2 titles underneath his belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt as though he was in that era in the 90s, he was one of the most underrated point guards in that era.
So you count only his Rocket season, or you count the Kings season as well?
I'm counting the King, just his career. His career in general.
All right. And Pistol Pete was irrelevant to this list, is what we're going with, right?
See, I know that you're gonna say Pistol Pete.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Pistol Pete was a good player. I know that he was like a Hall of Fame player.
That ain't the only one. I got some more.
I know.
But I want to hear these because we're gonna have this one part might be the whole podcast. We gonna get to the rest of it.
It's just Pistol Pete's not my I do recognize that he's a great player. He's just one player that I just don't think of.
Nor Big O.
Big O was actually on my radar.
What you mean radar? This man averaged. He was the first person before Westbrook averaging triple doubles.
I understand that.
He averaged a triple double. I believe he won a championship. Westbrook didn't win one. I know that's your top 3 personal, but the first 3 are personal. But and by the way, I haven't done this yet. I'm gonna find a way to put it in the podcast. It's not gonna be in the notes, but I'm gonna get like the images so I can share these with y'all. So you're not just thinking we reading these off like it's just me emptying the clip, because I want to be fair in the dialogue and not seem like I'm just throwing darts. I just want to, because we have this is open dialogue.
Yes,
but Big O won on the radar. He was on the edge, but he didn't make the radar. All right, I got you. I won't. So that if I expect that, then that explains why Nate Archibald and Clyde Frazier got left out. Okay, I'll leave that one alone. We'll go to, and I'm going to do these in order. Shooting guards. Shooting guards is kind of a shoe-in. I understood you having Petrovic. Petrovic was a personal one for you because he's from your hometown. Or from your area.
Yeah, and
Paul George I wouldn't put as a 2.
Yeah, I felt as though with Petrovic, he was a big deal in my area, and I felt as though if he was still around to finish his career, I think that he would have been a big deal. And the few seasons that he played in, he was making a splash.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
That's what, and with him.
Where's Jerry West?
Who?
Jerry West. I just like some of them. I'm trying to be like, okay, I get it if they old school and you ain't fuck with old school. I got you. But the logo, he's the fucking logo.
I know he's the logo.
Anything we talk about, his damn, all of these images show players wearing basketball jerseys with the logo. He's the only player to get a Finals MVP on a losing team. I'm just asking questions. I'm asking the questions for premium content. For everyone else that's making, I want help. Like, help me, help you to help me.
I know he was. I know he's on the logo. To me, like he it's. I just thought that for me myself, it was just like an afterthought. I knew I was gonna wind up getting as soon as I published the list, I'm like, I know Jerry West it won an MVP on a losing team,
Mm-hmm.
but how are you gonna be an MVP on a losing team? Like,
what you mean how? Explain. Elaborate on that.
That's like getting to me.
It's not a participation trophy. Don't compare it.
That's what
That's
where I was
not.
going.
No, it's not. You see, here's why I'm not giving you this. This is where the generational discussion begins. There's a lot of basketball that is generated thanks to the guys that you have on your list being able to solidify their personal career for where they are. Two players that will never be able to be put in the same category, but are in the same position, is Jordan and West. They're two different eras, but they're two different ways of winning. You had Jordan, who killed the 90s. You had West that busted up the 70s and a latter part of the 80s before Magic and Bird came in. Like, a lot of basketball, there were guys and there were players and or teams that passed the torch that led to legacies being built. Like, if you think about it right now, like we'll do this for shits, just to be funny, just to have fun. The Golden State Warriors legacy now that they've just built, they got the keys from who?
Golden State, they got it from
If you need help, I'll tag in.
I was.
They got the keys from LeBron. If you want to be precise, you'll say the Heat, because that Heat run was a solid run. Before the Heat, if you wanted to, you could say Boston when they won their championship. The big one that was really the shocker that no one expected, but it happened, was the Lakers. You go back before the Lakers, it was Jordan. You throw that little sprinkle in between Jordan's run, you got the Rockets. Before the Rockets, not the Pacers, the Pistons, your Lakers, yourself. Like, it's a passing of the torch. I say all of that, and I mention it is because a lot of those players that were on a lot of those teams, like, I think Sinners, you was spot on. Sinners was like, I had to give credit. Sinners was spot on. You had Bill, you had Kareem, you had Wilt. All right.
See, that's why I had saved it for last, to actually get like everybody back on my good graces after the point guard list. You
had Olajuwon, you had Shaq, you had Moses. Moses, I knew was personal for Philly, but it's still, he was a good big man. Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Mourning, Bill Walton, Vlade was Vlade. Mutombo. Surprised you left Sabonis out, especially with your international love.
Well, it was either me put Vlade in or Sabonis, and the one player that I actually went back to that twice, and I can only think of I could think of like Sabonis, but I just kept thinking about Vlade a little bit more.
Right. Okay.
Probably because of when I think of Vlade, I think of him being not just. I know all the teams he was on. I know all the teams that like he got traded to. He was on. But the one thing I do remember was I think we talked about this. He just that Kings team that just gave Shaq like a whole lot of issues, and then it just just remembering his whole career. I could have went to Sabonis as well. Sabonis was actually a nasty player where he's from,
right?
And then even coming over from and playing in the league here, in the NBA, I know that Sabonis was a nasty player.
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
I know some people gave me a little bit of heat for putting Vlade in and leaving Yao Ming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with that. Like, yes, like, should I have put Yao Ming in? Yes, I should have.
Right.
He did give Shaq a run for his money.
Mm-hmm.
He did give some of these other centers a run for that money.
Right.
But the one thing I do think of with Yao Ming is just the fact that every time I hear of Houston, he was always hurt. So maybe because of the fact that I'm hearing that he's always hurt was the reason why I didn't put him up.
Okay. So you can go when we go through all the other players on this list that was hurt a lot. I'm kidding. But I got you. See, small forwards, I'm on the fence. Because you had Doc, Bird, Pippen, those are givens. Durant, LeBron, Worthy, Kawhi, T-Mac and Grant Hill, injury prone. T-Mac could have had a long career, but we know how that went. Dominique, one of the best dunkers there was. Adrian Dantley and Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor is another unique player that never gets his credit. He's never gotten his roses ever in basketball, and I don't understand that. But
yeah, I think he's like one of the most underrated players.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Oh, power forward. Power forward one I think I was a fan of because it was like, I mean, you had Garnett, right? So I was like, all right, I'll stick this one I can deal with. Duncan, Garnett, Kevin McHale, Dirk Nowitzki, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Rodman, Grandmama, Elvin Hayes, Charles Oakley, Mahorn, and Sean Kemp. So wait, okay, I was about to say if you had Peyton, you had Malone. I was like, I want to make sure you had the Stockton, Malone, and the Peyton Kemp part right. You had Pippen and Jordan. As long as you didn't put Horace Grant, thank God.
No, I wasn't gonna put Horace Grant.
I wouldn't have been surprised if you did. I wouldn't have put it past you. I'm just being honest.
No, let me ask you this though. And a lot of people, when people want to talk about, I didn't put this name on here, and you know where I'm gonna go with this as soon as I say this. But a lot of people want to go with rings, and we all know that Jordan has 6 and Bill Russell has 11, but there's one other person that has more than Jordan, which is Robert Horry.
Right.
Now, what happens if I would have put him up there? Like, which I left him off on purpose because of his numbers as well. But how do you
I'd have to look at his stats, though. I mean, see, I don't have like a stat breakdown. It's kind of hit or miss because he actually was more than just Big Shot Bob.
When his stats were he was a 6'5"
for his career.
Or somewhere on the line. I think he was more of a 6.5 to 7, 5 rebounds, maybe like 2 assists, closer to 1.
See, but I mean, if you did the stat rundown, there are a lot of guys on the list that didn't have good stats, in my opinion. I'm just saying, like,
I just feel like he if I would have put him up there, like, it would have just barely been up there. But I didn't put him up there for a reason.
He only averaged double digits 3 times in his career. So yes. I don't care. I mean, that doesn't really, I really wouldn't have pushed him. But see, okay, I'm going to say this, and I'm saying it only because it's reality. People have really got to get out of the mindset of thinking that championships are everything. Championships are everything. But if we base it as being everything, then there are a lot of people that you could have added to the list. You could have added Peja. You could have added Tyson Chandler. You could have added Eddie Curry. There are a lot of guys. Shit, Adam Morrison could have made the list. guys that have rings that didn't do anything. Mitch Richmond got a championship. Like I don't merit guys for certain purposes in that regard. And I mean, on top of that, and this is something I'll tell you, I'll share too. Doing lists, and I learned this like a couple of months ago, actually. For the end of the year, I did a top 10 or a top 5 plus 1 of my favorite hip hop albums, my favorite R&B albums, and my favorite singles.
Oh, sorry.
You good. And so when I was doing it, like I'm writing on my list and I got everything, I would put artists or put albums, had to take a list out, take somebody out, put something in play. And I was maneuvering it for about 20, 30 minutes. I had my list. When I showed it and shared it with a lot of people, they were like, I mean, it's kind of, you're not really, you're kind of limiting yourself to a bubble. And a lot of it is an answer. Like I'm saying this because answers like these can change like in a couple of days. Like today, if I put a list of power forwards in front of you, you could pick out your people, no problem. If I waited 10 days later and gave you that same group of people to pick from, they're not going to be the same people. I personally can guarantee that only because you're going to think of things if more conversation has happened after you did that first list. Also, even down to just everyday people, we put the list down on Monday. 5 people come in. All 5 of them going to come with different people in their list. Some people will come with at least 2 or 3 people that no one would even think of. So it's not like I'm giving shit about it, but I'm also having fun with it. It's like there's never gonna be a right or wrong for it.
See, like I said, I was doing this for a conversation starter and having fun.
Oh, it flew.
We were just talking about this the other day. If you had to pick a starting a best 5 point guard, shooting guard, best starting lineup ever. Mm-hmm. Just because my starting lineup, I might think that that's right.
Yeah.
But you're different.
Yeah, I think, because like for instance, everyone assumes when you pick a starting 5, you're automatically going to put Jordan as 2. Some people did not like Jordan. Some people won't pick Jordan just because. Some people are guaranteed to not pick LeBron because they don't like LeBron. It's the what personal feelings you have towards or against a player, as well as what you're looking for to build your team.
Like me, myself, talking about Jordan, I think the greatest backcourt of all time would probably be Magic Jordan. But just because I'm saying Magic Jordan, greatest backcourt of all time, somebody else might say, no, I was hearing people saying, no, what about Stockton being the point guard?
Right.
Or what about Jason Kidd being the point?
Yeah. Or
what about Kobe being the 2?
Yeah. It's no set way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I got a little time. I'm gonna have fun with this last part, and then we're gonna wrap up. We'll do so we did the top 5 or top 12 for basketball. Okay. We let a little bit of time die down. We waited a couple hours and comes back with the top 15 quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. Which one was it? Was it running backs? I'm still tripping. But we're gonna go with it. That it was the same merit applying. The first 3 were your personal, and then the rest of them were just grab bag and folks that you like to fuck with.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll save the. Oh, let me make sure I put.
I almost put Jerome Bettis up there, but I think I put him in at 7. But
he made it.
Yeah.
Oh, he made it. You was gonna have me top 3?
Yeah, I was gonna have him top 3.
Okay.
But I decided not to.
So this one was another sports debate brought to you by yours truly, not in any particular order, but top 15 quarterbacks, parentheses, my opinion. Despite losing. Okay, and you had to get a Jim Kelly reference. Montana, Peyton Manning, Steve Young, Tom Brady, Terry Bradshaw, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, Brett Favre, Big Ben, Jim Kelly, Michael Vick, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, Kurt Warner, and Drew Brees. At least you did not put
and
I got the Jim, yeah, and you said about Jim Kelly losing it, he still was the only quarterback to go to 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you didn't put Phillip Rivers. If you did, I would really have been confused.
If I put Phillip Rivers up there?
Mm-hmm. Because they always, like, it's quarterbacks that do things or make impacts, but it's where or how they make an impact. That's how, at least how I'm thinking of it. Running backs, Walter Payton, Jim Brown, Eric Dickerson, Big Bo, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Jerome Bettis, O.J. Simpson, Thurman Thomas, Herschel Walker, Ricky Williams, Adrian Peterson, Priest Holmes, Tony Dorsett, Earl Campbell. I know you said something because someone is asking about, I think I asked about LaDainian Tomlinson, and I also think somebody asked about.
I think somebody asked me, why did I put Ricky up and Priest Holmes?
Mm-hmm.
And how come I didn't put up Tony Allen? I think one name was, and then LT.
It was another player. It was like he played for Kansas. I know the name. He's like brown-eyed guy, light brown. Anyway, go ahead. So your explanation for this one.
All right. So with Ricky Williams, he did show signs of greatness. He did show signs of that he was going to be great in the league, but it was his stupidity and wanting to smoke pot over playing ball.
Mm-hmm.
With Ricky and I want to say Priest,
mm-hmm.
I did put them up because those were two of the players with Jerome Bettis that I can actually say as a me playing running back in high school, those were three players that I can actually say that I watched, that I actually idolized watching. So those are actually my three picks, well, 2 picks that I put up. I did like Priest Holmes' game. He was a power running back.
Mm-hmm.
So is Ricky. Those are two players that I did actually idolize growing up.
I was with Ricky until he did the dress, and I was just over him at that point because it wasn't, and it's not like a being bigger than the game thing. I think for him it was just some of it. It was a lot mental that you at that time. Mental health was not a thing that was talked about much. With him, it was evident that there was something going on, and no one was around to really be in his corner to like get him straight. The only person that was really able to kind of keep him on course, but even their relationship wasn't the greatest, was Mike Ditka, in my opinion.
I say Jim Brown helped him out a lot. Tried to help him.
Mm-hmm.
See, yes, he did have a lot of mental issues, but it's just like when you think of like a violent sport like football, when somebody says I need help, I have mental, like 99% of people are going to want to disregard it. So that's why I think like.
But it wasn't acknowledged back then at all.
Well, yeah,
there wasn't any.
So that's why I think it wasn't acknowledged, because you're this big bad running back, like this big dude playing a violent sport.
Yeah. And
when I'm saying pleading out for help, people are just shut up and go play football, or you're playing at a tough sport. Stop acting like a little punk.
Yeah.
So that's why I think his mental issue was overlooked for the most part, and in that era. Now mental illness is actually out there, and you can seek help without having people judging you for it. But that era, people really weren't accepting mental health in that genre.
Gotcha.
Or that era.
Okay. All right, my last one for that, Marcus Allen. That's what I was asking about.
With Marcus Allen, I guess I really didn't watch too much of him or know too much about him.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that He is one of the great running backs of the 80s, beginning of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I just really didn't know too much. Like, I can honestly say I really don't know too much.
Okay. That's it. If you don't ask, you don't know.
Yes.
And finally, wide receivers. Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Michael Irving, Larry Fitzgerald, Lynn Swann, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Marvin Harrison, Antonio Brown. Next time, just do top 10.
Okay.
Top 10 can leave you. I'm not gonna read the rest of this list. The top 10. I'm just telling you. So two ways. One, do whatever the hell you want. I don't care because I don't trip like that. But I'm just looking at it as if you give a list, you're never gonna get everybody on a list that everybody's gonna like, regardless. So 10 is simple. 5 minimizes you. But 10 kind of gives you that scalability. Now, if you want to be petty and do 10 plus 1, that's fine. Like, you can always do honorable mentions or whatever, but simple is better. Any feedback you want to give on your wide receivers? Because I don't want to cut it short. And I'm sorry, before we continue, because I do want to, since you did give a list, I'll give you some applause. That was kind of long and loud. Pause.
Well, let's just go with the 10 that you just named. Is there any 10 in that list that you feel as though that I either should have put in? Questionable 10?
I would have probably, only because he's still young, I would have moved Julio out and put Owens in. Only because Julio is still kind of in the prime of his career. Because you got, I mean, I know, and I get it because you got Julio and Antonio, so it's like, which one do you pull?
Right.
Antonio, his resume in Pittsburgh spoke for itself. Now comes the big challenge. He's in Oakland. I don't know if it's going to be the same movement or how is it going to work. Most teams, if they're playing him, they know he's going to be a big target. I say T.O. because it's kind of interesting. T.O. is in that place in his life, not just his career. He can come out and play now and still be relevant, but it's tough because now in football years, if you hit a certain number, it's like, all right, bro, you gotta, it's time to let it go.
I think the last time I kept up with him, I think it was 40 plus.
Right. He's up there. I mean, they showed him trying to run routes and he was going out for a team, and I'm like, okay, good luck. Keep me posted on how it goes. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was a decent list. I'm adding this. Well, I'm not adding this segment. This is a segment part of the show. And the title, I think I told you, the title is I'm Gone because I'm still gone. I think that it kind of fit this because I've been gone like the whole time and I'm kind of drunk too. But part of the show, and I added this earlier this year, is a segment called Pass the Message. Basically, it's an inspirational message that you can send to the listeners as your personal inspiration for life or personal feelings or whatever. So it's a message you're passing to others to pay forward.
It's one of the things that's being spoke about right now in sports is people who are kneeling for the anthem or kneeling for the flag. Sometimes it's bigger than kneeling. I know it can come off disrespectful, but people who are on the fence or going with the against the flag, just sit there and listen. Listen to the message. Sometimes the message is a little bit more powerful than what they're actually kneeling. Why they're kneeling. Just listen to the message. And that's something that we actually, us as people, need to do more, is listen. We're always quick to jump to conclusion and say this person did that and this person did this, but why did this person do that or this?
Mm-hmm.
I just think as a society, we lack on listening skills. and it does it make it right for a person to kneel for the anthem, or does it make it wrong? You know, just the fact that they're trying to cause attention for themselves and they're trying to speak on what they are or what an issue is. Just listen. Just fall back sometimes and actually keep an open ear, because an open mouth are two closed ears. Okay. Sometimes we just need to close our mouth sometimes and just listen.
Well said. I didn't want to say nothing. I was still listening. Shit. Hell, you looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm drunk. I told you this already. I'm lit. So pass the message. What do I pass along to share with the listeners that they haven't heard 1,000 times? And one, first and foremost, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you joining. I'm not sounding like disengaged, like, oh, it's over. No, I'm glad that you came on. I'm glad you like made some good content, premium content for 32. That's gonna be an insider for another year, for the upcoming year, rather. But it was good having you on the show. I'm glad you were able to explain the list more elaborate, and most of all, know that me coming into it the way I did, like when we was leading up to it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna rip you apart. You know I wasn't gonna do that. I just wanted clarification. That's all I wanted.
I got you.
And I did. I got it cleared up pretty good, so I'm good on that.
Well, like I told you before, that was a great discussion. Now something that I've learned that you told me was be a little bit more elaborate if I come out with another list. So that's what I'm gonna do. If I come out with another list, which I plan on doing for defensive NFL players, I will be a little bit more elaborate.
That'll be on the next podcast. But my message that I'm gonna pass along is to enjoy the downtime. And I'm slow in saying this, but I'm also saying it the way I am, because no one knows this with me, or very few people know this with me. I'm very well known for being quiet when something is said and I don't know how to process it. And I told you this, I had this conversation with you after our meetup, before we came back to do the show. You would meet up with one of your friends and y'all were having a good convo. And I was chiming in a little bit here and there, but I was just chilling, because it's like, that's y'all time. It's your bonding time, catching up. And when I was hearing y'all talk about family, it took me back to my family. Like, being away, it's like, all right, I got time away from the family. Ooh, yay. But once the moment ends, you're back with family and you're back with friends. And I've been available, but I haven't been available. And my message I'm passing to others, and then I'm also passing this to myself, is find your way to be available, even if you don't think you're ready to be available. This is probably gonna be a dark. Let me backtrack. This is gonna be a unique place that I'm taking this podcast with this topic. My brother had a conversation with me that was very personal, and I'll talk about it on the show because it's just me being me. It was asking me if I was prepared. I kind of knew what he was talking about, but I didn't really want to acknowledge it. So he was saying, are you prepared for, how or what way things may or may not go pending with your parents? Because they're not young. And I told him, I was like, I am, but I'm not. Only because when shit hits the fan, it's not even a way of me faking or fooling myself into knowing it. I'm going to be one of the people that's going to be looked at as, hey, we need you to help X, Y, Z. And in some cases, it's simple. Like, okay, let me just go ahead and take off and do this and do that. When in other instances, I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get time. Like, it's me thinking ahead but not being prepared. So it's not me wanting or wishing that towards myself, but it's just me really thinking about if that moment comes, am I ready? And the truth is, I don't know. But all that being said, my passing message, which took like 5 hours for me to say, is be available and learn how to be present. Like, I know I always say be present, but when I say be available, it's be available to those who are willing, who know that they need your availability. Like your friends, your family, your significant other, if you have one. It's most of all yourself. We're not available to ourselves enough, and sometimes we notice it, but we don't acknowledge it or fix it. And that's where like the downward spiral begins, and that's where all the mental health shit comes from. But again, thanks for being on the show. I don't know how to segue out of that. Like, I was just like, because I'm trying to like be cool, but I just want people to like value people better. Like you said, you want people to learn how to listen. I want people to value. Like, sometimes we value each other, but we don't value each other enough because we're so disconnected.
Yeah, see, we value each other when we're gone. It took my friend to move to Baltimore to value him even more.
Right. And sometimes that's the reality. That's just how shit hits fan. But thank you for being on the show. I'm trying not to cry because it's hard, but I'm also like, I'm on fumes a little bit. I don't know what my show is going to be about. I think next week is tennis because there were some matches that I didn't talk about that I'll update. We'll be back to our regular shit, y'all. Don't worry. I know y'all been like, damn, he ain't been giving no content about tech and music, but I got y'all covered. I have finally listened to Chris Brown's album. I'll talk about that next week. And I also am finishing up listening to Dreamville. So I will give my hot takes on that album, as well as any new albums that have not whisked by me. By the way, if you have not listened to it, Marshmello's album, you will thank me later. All of that being said, y'all take it easy. The Past signing out. It's been real. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.